U.S. trade policy is facing some new uncertainty as a federal appeals court rules most of President Trump's sweeping tariffs were improperly imposed. They will remain in effect while that decision is appealed up to October 14th. Roger McEowen with the Washburn School of Law joins us now for a closer look at this issue. Roger, thank you so much for your time today. Let's start with some background on how we got to this point.
Well, good to be with you, Tammy. Well, the Congress since 1930 has legislatively delegated power to the executive branch, powers which the president can use to impose tariffs. And the most recent one is the International Emergency Powers Act. That allows the president to take action to respond to unusual and extraordinary threats to national security, as well as foreign policy or the economy during a national emergency.
So let's talk about how that ties in with all of this, that Powers Act.
Well, really, it comes down to whether the president's ability to regulate international economic transaction, including imports, during a declared national emergency, it is covered by the law. And the emergency, of course, here being the national debt and the severe trade imbalances with foreign countries and what's happening with fentanyl coming across the southern border. And for example, the severe supply chain issues we had during COVID with pharmaceuticals and other largely tech items being produced in China. That gives us a country that's on the foreign countries of concern list the ability to really hamper our economy. And that's what the president is seeing here.
Okay. And of course, a federal appeals court now has ruled that most of the sweeping tariffs were improperly imposed. What are the details of that ruling?
Well, the court interpreted the law's broad language of not including the power to levy tariffs. It distinguished, I think improperly, between the power to regulate, which the president has, and the power to tax, which the court believed that the tariffs are, which is the privilege of and the power of Congress. But that doesn't square, I don't think, with either the historical or legal understanding of tariffs or how the president is actually using tariffs here. Trump's tariffs are not really tariffs in the traditional historical and legal sense.
That is so interesting. And I know that the administration has filed for the Supreme Court to review that ruling. Do you have any expectations moving forward on that?
Well, I'm looking at 6 justices. I discount 3 of the justices. We know how they're going to go. And so you've got to line up 5 of the 6 remaining justices. And I think there's probably 5 that will reverse the appellate court because it conflicts actually with a federal circuit court case in the 1970s, which upheld President Nixon's import surcharge. And here, the lower court also, I think, misapplied the major questions doctrine. Plus, the Supreme Court's going to be concerned about establishing a precedent that limits the president's power to use tariffs to respond to rapidly evolving international economic threats. The Congress just can't move fast enough in the world that we live in to deal with those things. And so the balance of power here, I think the equities lie on the president's side.
Yeah, definitely so. So what is your big takeaway from this entire situation? And do you see the outcome impacting the balance of power between the executive and judicial branches?
That's exactly what's at stake here. Ultimately, it's going to be up to the Congress to define those boundaries. And so if the Supreme Court reverses, like I think it does, and the Congress doesn't like it, it can again redefine the boundaries legislatively because Congress has that power to do so. But given the existing law and the existing case precedent, I think there's a good chance the Supreme Court reverses.
Yeah, closely watching to see how all this turns out. That's Roger McEowen with the Washburn School of Law. Thanks for your insight today.